Many so-called experts on Earth believe that Egypt's largest pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, was the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, or a symbol of power, or used for religious or ceremonial purposes. However, none of this is true. This pyramid was much more important. It was a tool. An enormous tool, I admit, but a tool just the same. You may feel very confused, wondering why the pyramid would be a tool? You will have realized that the people who constructed this pyramid were highly advanced people. They possessed a profound understanding of universal law and used their pyramid as a captor of cosmic rays, forces, and energies, as well as terrestrial energies. Inside, rooms positioned according to a precise plan served the pharaoh and certain other great initiates as powerful communication centers, enabling telepathic communication with other planets and other worlds in the universe. Such communication with extraterrestrials is no longer possible for people on Earth. And was this the sole purpose of the pyramid? Not quite. Its second use was to make rain. By a system of plates made of a special alloy incorporating silver as its major component, these people were able, in a few days, to cause the accumulation of clouds above the country, and so to have rain as they needed it. Now that you know the pyramid's purpose, you may still feel confused, and that's normal. So let me start from the beginning. Many so-called experts on Earth believe that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, approximately between 2589 BC and 2566 BC, around 4,500 years ago, which is why it is called the Great Pyramid of Khufu. But this is also not true. The pyramid was not built during Khufu's time. However, I can tell you that Pharaoh Khufu did indeed make correct use of this pyramid. The actual builder of the pyramid was a famous god of ancient Egypt. He was the god of the moon, wisdom, knowledge, writing, hieroglyphs, science, magic, art, and judgment. In art, he was often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis or a baboon, animals sacred to him. In ancient Egyptian mythology, his name was Thoth, but his real name was Thoth. He came from Atlantis. Atlantis, like the continent of Mu, did exist and was situated in the northern hemisphere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was attached to Europe and linked to America by an isthmus and to Africa by another isthmus at about the latitude of the Canary Islands. Its area was slightly greater than that of Australia. If you want to know the history of the Mu continent, you can watch this video. It was inhabited by the people of Mu approximately 30,000 years ago. In fact, it was a colony of Mu. There was also a white race there, tall blonde people with blue eyes. It was the Mayas, very learned colonizers from Mu, who governed the country, and they constructed there a replica of the Pyramid of Savanassa. Savanassa is the capital of the continent of Mu. 17,000 years ago, the people of Atlantis explored the Mediterranean thoroughly, going via the north of Africa, where they acquainted the Arabs with much new knowledge, material as well as spiritual. The numerical script, for example, still used by the Arabs, came from Atlantis, and from Mu, of course. They went to Greece, where they founded a small colony, and the Greek alphabet corresponds almost exactly to that of Mu. Finally, they arrived in a land that the natives called Aranka, and which you know as Egypt. There, they established a strong colony with a great man by the name of Thoth at its head. Laws were established which embodied the beliefs of Mu and the organizational principles of Atlantis. Improved plants, new techniques for raising cattle, new methods of cultivation, pottery, and weaving were all introduced. Thoth was a great man of Atlantis, extremely knowledgeable materially as well as spiritually. He founded villages, built temples, and, just before his death, he had constructed what people now call the Great Pyramid. Each time these great colonizers judged that the new colony had the potential to become great, materially and spiritually, they would construct a special pyramid. In Egypt, they constructed the Great Pyramid on the same model as the Pyramid of Savanassa, but on a scale 3 times reduced. These pyramids are unique and, in order to fulfill their role as a tool, their dimensions and specifications must be precisely adhered to, as well as their orientation. People may wonder how much time it took to build this pyramid. It was quite fast, just 9 years, for Thoth and his master architects knew the secrets of anti-gravitation from Mu, and the secrets for cutting the rock and using, let's call them, electro-ultrasounds. The Maya Atlanteans were not the only ones to explore and colonize. Gone for thousands of years, the Nagas had colonized Burma, India, and finally they reached the shores of Egypt, at about the latitude of the Tropic of Cancer. They, too, founded a successful colony and occupied Upper Egypt. Both groups of colonizers introduced similar sorts of improvements. The Nagas established a large town called Mayu on the banks of the Red Sea. The natives of the region went to their schools, gradually becoming assimilated with the colonists and producing the Egyptian race. However, about 5,000 years ago, the Nagas in the north of Egypt and the Maya Atlanteans began fighting for a reason that is quite ludicrous. The Atlanteans, whose religion differed significantly from the religion of Mu, believed in the reincarnation of the soul, which is astral body, in the country of its ancestors. Thus, they claimed that the soul traveled westward to where they had come from. The Nagas held a similar belief, except that they claimed the soul went back to the east, since they had come from the east. For 2 years they were actually at war over this difference, but it was not a terribly cruel war, as both groups comprised of fundamentally peace-loving people, and eventually they became allied and formed a unified Egypt. The first king of United Egypt, both Upper and Lower, was called Mena. It was he who established the town of Memphis. He was elected by the same method used in Mu, a method that did not long survive in Egypt, due to the rise of a powerful clergy, which little by little put the pharaohs under its thumb. This situation continued over the years with notable exceptions among the pharaohs who yielded to the clergy. One such exception was the pharaoh Akhenaten, who was poisoned by the priests. Before dying, he made the following statement: "The time that I have spent on this earth was an era in which the simplicity of truth was not understood and was rejected by many." As often happens in religious sects, the Egyptian priests distorted the truth, simple though it was, in order to have a better hold over the people. They had them believing in the devil and in various divine beings as well as other such nonsense. It must also be said that prior to the war and the subsequent peace pact, which saw Mena installed as king of Egypt, the population, made up of Maya Atlanteans and Nagas in equal proportions, had established a sophisticated civilization in both Upper and Lower Egypt. The country was prosperous, farming and grazing flourished, and the time of the first king of Egypt, Mena, was almost the culmination of this rising civilization. Thus, you can also understand that due to the rise of the ancient Egyptian priests, the ancient Egyptian civilization gradually declined. Therefore, by the end, the true purpose of the pyramids was forgotten, and the pyramid builder, Thoth, was deified by these priests. I must also emphasize that the pyramid we are referring to, the one built by Thoth, is the Great Pyramid of Khufu, which is the largest pyramid in Egypt. Egypt doesn't have just one pyramid. Next to the Great Pyramid of Khufu, there is the second largest pyramid, the Pyramid of Khafre, and the Pyramid of Menkaure, along with many smaller subsidiary pyramids. These pyramids were not built by Thoth, and they do not serve the same function as the pyramid we discussed earlier, because these other pyramids were built to serve the needs of Egypt's fallen rulers at the time.